competition may actually cut and neutralize each other, whereas harmony brings synthesis. It brings a synergistic outcome of the efforts that both and everybody together will be making. So we shall look forward to a society where there is parity, with respect for one another, where both learn to work together and create a healthy world, not just for human beings, but for entire life on earth. It's very important for us to understand that life is not compartmentalized only for human beings, not just for Homo sapiens. It is meant for millions of species, both organic and inorganic. And only when you understand that that kind of harmony needs to be sustained, nurtured, and promoted, are we all going to find happiness on earth. So that is what we should all be ultimately promoting. Now, speaking about the empowerment, the topic that you have chosen is very good. You have very rightly put EM and empowering within the brackets. That means we are going to empower those who have been discriminated so far, and then power agriculture. See, these are two important aspects. We are empowering a particular class so as to power the change in agriculture sector, another vulnerable sector of our country. So there is an organic linkage between empowering someone and empowering a sector. So that kind of organic symbiosis between the two must be very clearly understood. In that context, we should first understand that equality is a human right. Since the 12th century, the whole change in history world over has been to bring about that equality. And those principles of equality got well concretized in the 17th century through the French philosophers and poets who talked about justice, liberty, and equality. And justice, liberty, and equality, along with fraternity, these are the four pillars of India's constitution, just as they are of all forward-looking progressive constitutions the world over. So in India, the preamble lays the entire structure of India's constitution on these four pillars. So what does that mean? That means equality is a fundamental right. So gender parity is a fundamental right. Just as we cannot discriminate between one man and another man, or one woman and another woman, we should not be distinguishing negatively between woman and man. So that gender equality is a human right, and that's what we're trying to achieve on earth. And this class of distinction that we see in our world from time immemorial has to be obliterated, and we need to create an opportunity for everybody. So when we talk about gender equality, one of the important tools that we must understand is education. In fact, United Nations Human Rights Declaration talks about the importance of education, that education is a tool that can actually transform people by empowering those who have been disempowered from time immemorial. So education is a tool that will help us to actually make a change, because it gives a new confidence, new courage, new conviction, and new hope that I can also do. And that's what these two ladies here, Vallama and Ashok, represent. That if you give them information, knowledge, and skill, they also know that there is no mystery around this. It is demystified. They know that I can do what he can do. Hence, education is the core of any transformation. And this is what our world bodies, our constitutions have tried to do. Now, if we talk further about empowering itself, what do we mean by the term empowerment? There have been a lot of studies world over. There has been a lot of debate to understand what is empowerment. Everybody says we need to empower. But what does empowerment mean to different people across the global societies? It will vary depending upon the society we live in, depending upon the context we live in. What is empowerment today may seem not so tomorrow. That means the bar had changed. What is empowerment in Ghana may not be empowerment in India. And what is empowerment in India may not be empowerment in the United States. So it is contextual to a particular society. So empowerment at the very basic level means that we assume that there is a discrimination. And we assume that women have been differentiated negatively, and therefore they have not been given the opportunity to make a choice, to make a decision. So the ability to make a choice, own choice, ability to make a decision is the first step towards empowering the women. Now, is that kind of an opportunity created either by constitution, by law, or by society, or by changing the customs that have been long held? Is that enough? Or is that adequate to define what is empowerment? It is not held as adequate by the researchers or academics. The reason is, when you talk of empowerment, and I told you that it can vary in meaning from society to society. In one society it may mean, or to one individual girl today it may mean self-dignity, it may mean respect. To somebody else it may mean emancipation, I've been emancipated. Or somebody might say, no, I'm autonomous, I'm independent. So it can mean different things to different persons. But when we talk about these words, emancipation, autonomy, independence, etc., what we are talking is that we're talking of that girl or woman as some compartmentalized species, a compartmentalized member of a society. But our society, as you know, sociologists always tell us, it is a group of people. No human being can live alone. The worst punishment that you can give to anybody is to quarantine a person and tell that you shall not talk to anybody. So, giving that kind of just independence or autonomy to either a woman or a man is not going to be a part of a healthy living. Hence, when we talk about a decision or empowering a person, a woman, to make her own choice, we also to be ensuring that there is what is called as interdependence. That means woman has to depend mutually, of course, on another woman. Woman on man and man on woman. So that interdependence is what defines a healthy society. Hence, when we talk of empowerment, we have to ensure that we are not going to take a revenge against the wrong that happened yesterday, but we are going to learn from the wrong of that yesterday and say that today and tomorrow we shall create a society where both are equal and both shall live with mutual dependence, which is built on trust, which is built on confidence, which is built on give and take. So that interdependence is integral, or it is a pivot on which we should build a society of empowerment. Also, empowering the women means that. So along with this freedom to make a choice, which is of course, as we said now, based on interdependence and trust, etc., it is once again not enough. We need to expand the boundary of the meaning of this empowerment. And that should say that we allow that woman as a class to harvest the innate potential in sociological terms, in psychological terms, in economic terms, in political terms. And she arrogates to herself a freedom to achieve the best that is in her. And the women as a class achieve the best that exists within them. So that is what ultimately empowerment means. That we have a choice and we also have the opportunity to grow up the way we want to, in a harmonious manner. So this is what we should be actually envisioning working on it as a mission, as a goal, as an objective. So how do we now empower our people, women as a class, and then transform or metamorphose the society where everybody is able to live together and respect one another, each other in a meaningful manner? And of course, we talked about education as an important instrument. As Mahatma Gandhi said, you educate a man in the home, you are educating one individual. You educate a woman, you're educating the entire family. And of course, you're right, because families are the basic bricks that build a society. It could be a state, it could be a nation, it could be a globe. So we're actually contributing to change the society itself. But there's a more common proverb or saying, adage in Africa. It says, you educate a boy, you're training a man. You educate a woman, you're training the village. That means it goes beyond the home itself and say that woman becomes a change agent for the village. And that's what we're seeing in our own country through the self-help groups. That the self-help groups are actually becoming a change agent for transforming the way the village is operating today. The village credit system, institutional system, the power equations. Well, ultimately, power equations matter. The power equations between husband and the wife, the power equations between the women-led family and the man-led family. When we are going to empower women, then we'll be bringing parity and they'll be talking in equal terms. Only when two people can talk in equal terms can there be free exchange of ideas. And therefore, it will contribute to a more healthy and more informed decision. If it is one of inequality, whether it is between the boss and his employee, or between a man with the power and somebody disempowered, and likewise between a husband and a wife, where wife is not empowered, there cannot be an informed decision. It is therefore important that we actually create that kind of a situation where we are able to create equality in also decision making. So if this is what is empowerment, there are many ways, of course, that we need not go into all that. How do we now talk about empowerment in agriculture? I think that's what we all want to discuss today. And this 2 days we're going to talk about empowering agriculture, women in agriculture. Now, as I told you once again, if empowerment is a term which all people cannot agree on, how do we talk about empowerment of women in agriculture to power agricultural transformation? Ultimately, we're all interested in powering agricultural transformation in the country, whether to realize sustainability in the context of climate change, or to increase the incomes of the farmers in the context of poverty that besets the Indian agriculture community, or whatever other lacuna that we associate agriculture with in our country and elsewhere. So how do we empower women to become a change agent, to power agricultural transformation in the right direction towards the right goal that we all want to see in due course of time? Now, the word empowerment can be both quantitative and qualitative. As researchers, you would better appreciate that when we take up research in sociology, unlike in physical sciences, like physics, chemistry, or even mathematics, where everything is extremely black and white, it is arithmetical, as they say, where you can control the conditions of your experiment, and you can also replicate that experiment under similar conditions, or rather identical conditions, in two different places. In sociology, it is very difficult. The behavior of the same person can vary according to the day, according to the morning, according to the afternoon, according to the evening. Hence, quantitative research will have to be clubbed with qualitative research. Only conjointly can they come out with some better understanding of this. When you talk about quantitative understanding of empowerment, we're all talking of well-defined terminologies, translatable understanding. For example, in India, we can say that we want to have joint pattas for all the land holding, that both men and women must have joint pattas, as you were telling, Chandrasekhar. Or we can talk about equal access to credit. These are quantifiable. We can say, all right, how many men got credit this time? How many women got? And what amount men got and what amount women got. That is quantifiable, standardized, data-based analysis of empowerment. But is that enough? Because I told you that that same empowerment, which is standardized, which is quantified, may mean differently to different person. I might get $100 here in India, but I might get $1,000 in the United States. Even then, that may not be enough there. So what is enough here may not be enough in America. So we can't have those kind of parities. Hence, qualitative research. That means, how does the community itself perceive the word empowerment? That is more important. How do the women themselves perceive what is empowerment? And how do they perceive it in different contexts? How do they perceive in an urban setting? How do they perceive in rural setting? How do they perceive in India as a whole? How do they perceive somewhere in Iraq, for example, or in Afghanistan, or in Costa Rica? So that we keep varying. So qualitative ways of researching to appreciate what that empowerment is and working towards that desired perception is very, very critical. So here, one particular research which you must have all referred to is what is called, for the first time, a composite index was developed. That is the Women in Agriculture Empowerment Index, WEAI, Women Empowerment in Agriculture Index. We have indices for many things, right? For drought, we have got index for price variations, market situations. So we got index for different purposes. So likewise, for the first time, Women in Agriculture Empowerment Index was developed as a composite index, which was based on both quantitative and qualitative research. And this was carried out by some international organizations, including FAO, across 8 countries, based on 8 agriculture-oriented projects that had been funded by international bodies. So they included Bangladesh, Ghana, Ethiopia, and they found that things mean differently to different people. However, the same research was taken forward, which included other countries, once again Bangladesh, and then 2 other countries. So there they came out with some key domains or key indicators as to what would be the focus on if our purpose is to empower people and understand how they perceive. So how do we address the challenges which are included in the Union of India? And those are, the first one of course is, what is the power of the woman, that is the farm women, to make a choice relating to agriculture. It could be what crop to choose, what to do with that crop. Should I sell it in APMC market in Kurnool, or I can try and sell it on the direct trade platform to Delhi? So this is the power to make a choice relating to agriculture is the first indicator of empowerment. How much power does that woman in the house exercise relating to this? Second one is, what is her control of the productive resources? Because agriculture, like any other economic domain, is based on factors of production: land, labor, capital, technology. So what is the control of the woman of the house in the farming community over these resources? The third one is, what is the control of the woman on the income? Yes, she has control of productive resources, let's assume. She cultivates, produces, then the income is generated. But what is her control of the income? And fourth one is, what is the control over the time? The time is another very important factor. How can she utilize her time? Is she asked to work extra, or she is given some leisure hours, just as men enjoy? So control over time is very important. And then Very important is social capital and community leadership. Do we want women to stay indoors, or we would like to allow them to go out and participate in the community activities as members, as chairman, or participate in decision making there as to how are we going to celebrate Ganesh Utsav this time? Is it only men who will decide and come and tell that this is how Ganesha is going to celebrate it? A woman also will have an opportunity to contribute to make that change, to the way it's going to celebrate it. So the social participation is very important. And then the access to technology in the 21st century. Digital technology is creating a new haves and have-nots. Even people like me, my own generation today may be illiterate in terms of digital technology. We may be very good in writing using the usual Arabic text. But what about digital technology? So how well are women connected to the digital technology? So these are some of the indicators which will decide to what extent our women have been empowered. And the last one, very critical, is the freedom of mobility. Now, freedom of mobility is something which meets the greatest resistance. The husband will tell wife not to go out, or he will tell her, if you go out, you have to tell me. The father will tell daughter accordingly. Or the DG may tell the girl students not to go out. So, the freedom of mobility is very important. Because the masculine power, which has been holding on to this secret, feels threatened. But once a woman goes out, she will know what is the network. She will know where these inputs are available, where I can sell. Now, that secret, that mystery, the man would like to keep under his control. So, building networks is going to, like, for example, these ladies from Deccan Development Society, they know that they have come here to the marriage and sitting with us, there's nothing very great about it. I mean, there's no mystery around it. She has now demystified the network. Now she is able to talk on equal terms with the DG, as I saw him there, as I saw her there. But some other woman of her own village may feel that, no, there is a God I can't touch. Right? So that is the power of network demystification. So these are some of the indicators on which we should try and bring about a change. And as I told you, these things will vary. For example, the research has found that in Bangladesh, which is also so in India, that a woman can travel at particular hours of the day. She cannot go at particular odd hours of the day. Or if she is traveling, she shall travel only if there is a good transport. That there is a good bus, for example. Or they said that, well, the men can even sit on the cotton bags or jawar bags or whatever jute bags in Bangladesh and travel in open trucks, but women cannot sit like that. They have to sit in a proper place. These could be cultural norms, and there could be whatever they think about it. But then the implication is that women cannot travel till we improve our roads. Women cannot travel till we provide a good transport system. So till that time, it is a man's work. Now, which is there first, egg or chicken? So should we wait for the government to provide us the good road, good transport, and then we'll say women can travel? By the time they would have lost out so much. I'm only just illustrating. I'm not saying that you should all sit on the jawar truck, loaded truck and travel. What I'm trying to tell you is that if we want to change, it has to be an ecosystem-oriented change. We cannot have sequential change. That first I'll make a road, then I'll get a road transport, then you will be allowed to travel. No. We will have to tackle this problem. That means one problem has to be tackled from multiple angles. That is what is called an ecosystem approach to solving a problem. Hence, the solution to the women's discrimination today, including in agriculture, will depend upon how we are going to tackle these issues. When we talked about control over the productive resources, our data shows that 12.6% of the land holdings are in the names of the women. Of 12 crore or 120 million land holdings in the country, only 12.6% holdings are under the women category. Out of the operational holdings, 18.6% of the farms are women-led. That means still 80% of the farms are not women-led. We would expect at least a fair ratio 50-50. That is still a long way to go. Hence, if we want to power agriculture, as I told you, that World Economic Forum at one of its debates said that if you want economic transformation in the world to happen, we must allow women to participate. Human resource is the most valuable asset, we all know. But human resource consists both of men and women. If we are not giving due opportunities to women, we are depriving the society of 50% of the capacity utilization. An engine is 10 horsepower, but we are using at best only 5 horsepower. Other 5 horsepower is left idle. So if you want economic transformation or social transformation, then we must give opportunities to women also. And if we want to give that women's opportunity in agriculture, what does our data say? Our data says, and all of us are very familiar with the word feminization of agriculture. But what does that feminization of agriculture mean? In India, between 1977, 78 and 2017, 18, 30 years, there has been a huge change in the way the men and women have been participating in agriculture. While in 1977, 78, 81% of the men were engaged in agriculture, women were higher at 88%. That means even at that point of time, the percentage of women in agriculture was higher, which meant that men were working also outside agriculture, in service sector, in manufacturing sector. But in 2017-18, look at the change. Yes, more people as a class have gone out of agriculture into service and industry. That is the economic transformation. But if you look at the data related to men and women, the women percentage has dropped from 88% to 73%. That means a drop of 15%. But as far as men are concerned, it has dropped 25 points. From 81, it has come down to 55. That means the percentage of men who have moved out of agriculture is much higher compared to the women movement. However, we should realize that if women are now participating as a percentage more in agriculture, which is what is called feminization of agriculture, then have we created the changed paradigm for women to take the lead in leading agriculture? Whether it is men or women, whoever is leading has been given an opportunity to lead the transformation. But do our policies, programs, our environment in general, do they support the changed paradigm where women are today participating much more than men in agriculture? So is it just a flavor of the season to say feminization of agriculture? This is where the crux lies. If we want to power transformation of agriculture, we need to empower those who are leading it. And then here is very clear from data that women are leading the India's agriculture. The second point is people like you and me who sit here in very controlled environment are likely to understand by agriculture people who own lands. But Indian agriculture, it constitutes both landless agricultural labor and women or men or farmers who own land. Now, this data shows that among the women class itself, 33% are landless agricultural labor and 48% are owners of land. Owners in the sense they are managing. They may not be owners of land, but they are managing the land because men have gone out as to migrate, or they have gone out here and there. They are working somewhere. So this shows that landless agriculture farmers, landless agriculture women are very critical component of the agricultural sector. So empowering women in agriculture means empowering both landless agriculture labor and those who are owning land. Powering India's agriculture means looking at both these segments. So feminization of agriculture should be appreciated in the context of either owning or not owning. When it comes to this, farmers as a class are vulnerable. Whether men or women, farmers as a class are vulnerable compared to others. And farming in India needs a lot of change, a lot of structural changes. So here in this context, if we want to empower farmers first and then empower women as a subset of this agriculture farming community, we should be looking at a more inclusive understanding of agriculture and a more inclusive definition of farmers. In India, on account of the background where we suffered food deficiency, where our single aim was to have food security, for us, agriculture meant crops. Agriculture meant agronomic crops, food grains, cereals, pulses, oil seeds, etc. But these agronomic crops are just one small component of the entire agriculture. We have got crops, we have got more perennial crops like horticulture and plantation. We have dairy and animal husbandry. We have fisheries and aquaculture. Our emphasis has not been on all this. So if we want to power agriculture, we need to bring emphasis on all the subsectors. Then, with respect to policies and programs, research, development, extension, everything. Again, once again, an ecosystem. The purpose of drawing your attention to this is that in India, women are managing some of the subsectors much more than what men do. And that's where the inclusive definition of farmers come. For us, a farmer is somebody who owns land. But a farmer can be somebody who does not own land. If we give a proper meaning to agriculture, that agriculture is not only land-centric, but is also water body-centric. And within the water body, not just inland water, but also the ocean water. In the grazing, not just on the farm, but also on the pasture lands. Also the migrants who own sheep and goat and travel hundreds and thousands of kilometers without owning. There could be a farmer who's owning or somebody who's taken on a lease and is still cultivating. So women are doing many of these things. So when we now talk about empowering women in agriculture, we should be having a more inclusive definition of farming. So the Doubling Farmers Income Committee has defined what is a farmer. A farmer is somebody who is recognized as such, who cultivates or husbands both land and water, which could be either owned or leased in, which could be either leased from private people or from government sources. In that sense, we'll have a more inclusive definition. Because we know in the dairy sector, 5 million women members of the national dairy movement. Out of 1.7 lakh primary dairy cooperative societies, where women are majority, 32,000 of them are all women member societies. This apart from in other societies also they are very dominant members. And all of them own mostly one buffalo, one cow. But they are not farmers. So what does it mean? That we need to re-mandate, rethink, re-understand what agriculture is. What farmer means. If we are going to address the problems of farmers, we'll be also addressing the problems of the women farmers in agriculture. So most of these landless agricultural labor who go to do their wage employment on the others' farms for weeding, for example, or for cutting or harvesting, sowing, etc. They are also carrying one goat with them. They are carrying one buffalo with them. Or they are cutting the grass and bringing to feed, but they are not farmers. So when we have a more inclusive definition of farmer, naturally we'll ensure that they are entitled or they are able to access all entitlements, whether it is PM Kisan Yojana, or an institutional credit, or a subsidy on seeds, subsidy on pesticides, subsidy on various animal health, or livestock insurance. Have a dozen programs are there. The short point is that if we want to empower women in agriculture, we understand their roles. And when we, going back before I close, that we make a choice, we may tell her, all right, you make a choice, I've given you 100 rupees, now you decide whether you want to you want to buy burfi, or you want to buy chuda for your daughter or son. No, that's not a decision. The decision is strategic choice, strategic decision. That our family kitty is 1 lakh rupees. How do you use this 1 lakh of rupees? That is a strategic decision. So is the woman allowed to make a strategic decision? That is the question. So otherwise, we can always say, for form's sake, I've allowed you to decide what to cook, what to serve. That's not it. We have to give an opportunity to be part of the strategic decision. So there is a lot that actually can be done and should be done, and that is first to offer dignity to the human being. We cannot have a society which is discriminatory either in any denomination, whether it is region, religion, community, caste, race, color, and gender. Any kind of discrimination where it is you, we and you is antithetical to human dignity. You may be the richest person, but if you are discriminated in some name, then you will be the unhappiest of person. Hence, this theme that is there, choose to challenge. We need the society to challenge itself. And always, as they say, that the disfavored has never got his right by asking. You have to seek it and challenge it and get it. It doesn't come on a platter. Nothing comes on a platter. One has to really ask for it and challenge it. So we need a society that challenges itself. We need a more egalitarian leadership, society that is willing to give. And the women who are ready to ask and take it and exercise it. So friends, before I close, let me tell you that we certainly need a change. We need an equal society. First, as I said, for offering dignity to every human being. And women are 50% of our society. And second, it is in the larger interest of the society itself that we are using the human power for a change. And what that change is, collectively we decide that this is the change we want to achieve. So thank you very much, and I would like to thank the Director General for giving me this privilege of being with you all on this important day and sharing some of my thoughts. And I must congratulate you that your institute has contributed immensely to a lot of change in agriculture, including in the gender domain, whether it is the ACBC system of promoting enterprise and extension, or the Atma, which has brought about a paradigm shift in the way we should be planning for and executing the agriculture programs at the district level. They all have been very leap forward initiatives, and it is based on those that today we are having many more initiatives, whether it is agriculture startup or agri enterprise, agri entrepreneurship, or an income-based approach to agriculture, or a value chain-based system of operation. All these things are built on what you people initiated years back, and I would therefore suggest and request that please keep up this tempo, and under your dynamic leadership, may this institute grow further to bring about a more horizontal and a more accelerated pace of change, which is both equitable and equal for everybody. So wishing all women here particularly a very happy International Women's Day, and also the men that we can become partner in this positive transformation. Thank you.